Welcome in, everybody, to episode 4 of the Fourth Down Football Show. I'm your host, Matt. Today, going to be joined by my good friend Chase from Showtime CFB, and then also joined by Kyle later in the show to talk a little NFL as well. It was a great weekend across football, lots of upsets in college football, great comebacks, great offensive games in the NFL as well. So a little bit of both, best of both worlds. Really looking forward to this great conversations today. Make sure you check it out. Don't miss any of the show, any of the content we're putting out there. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. And yeah, let's just get right into it.
All right, guys, we're bringing on my guy Chase from Showtime College Football. I've met Chase, talked to Chase a little bit through Instagram. He has a great IG page. Make sure you go give it a follow. Showtime CFB, putting out lots of great content covering college football. Honestly, better than a lot of pages out there, in my opinion. So I was on his podcast last week, and he's filling in for Mello today. Mello's not able to make it quite as well. So, Chase, we had a great weekend in college football.
Oh, heck yeah, dude. Underrated. Better than I could have expected.
You did a great job predicting some of these potential matchups. So I got to give you props to that. You were all over all of the great games, South Carolina, Georgia. The only one you missed was Florida State, Boston College, which I don't hold that against you. Nobody saw that coming. But like you were all over those. So I got to give you props for that. Tennessee, Florida, we're going to cover those. Kansas State getting upset by Missouri. Minnesota, North Carolina was a pretty close game. Like I said, you were all over these, so props to you starting off.
Can't forget about BYU beating Arkansas.
That's right, your guys. You guys, they got it done. I was wrong. You were right to pick your guys.
Heck yeah, bro. Dude, well, I'm gonna pick them no matter what. So I don't take too much credit for it. I mean,
fair enough.
Actually, in my unbiased Showtime college football sense, I probably would have picked Arkansas like all of you guys did, but I got credit for picking BYU.
There we go. So we're gonna start off. We're gonna talk about a couple of the upsets because it was a big upset week,
right,
and even a big close game week as well. And of course, we got to talk about Colorado State, epic game there. So we're gonna start off though with one of the upsets, like I said, Missouri walk-off field goal, 61-yarder, to take down number 15 Kansas State 30-27. Did you get a chance to watch this game? And if so, either way, what kind of takeaways you get from it?
I definitely watched this game. It was pretty much the only game on early in the day. The noon slate. It was the main one that I was paying attention to. And Missouri kind of had control of the game. I mean, it was kind of Kansas State fighting from behind for a lot of it. You know, it's fighting to keep it close. And that's just kind of the feel of the game, was that Missouri was running that game. And so to have Missouri walk off like that was 61-yarder. It wasn't the longest field goal in SEC history, like period.
Yeah, something like that.
That was so awesome. I wonder what the longest field goal in FBS history is. It's probably like 65 or something. But man, that was like, it was back and forth too. I mean, Missouri, I think Kansas State did take a lead later in the game, but it just felt like that Missouri had a lot of control, especially earlier in the game. But man, Will Howard's a great quarterback from Kansas State. I would not overlook them yet. Losing off a 61-yarder, it's kind of hard to just take a team from 15 out of the top 25. But yeah, what's your take on Kansas State? Do you think it's like a bust situation, or are you still liking them?
So I'm not sure. I'm a little in between because a lot of these games, SEC games, and even though it is Missouri, and people mock them for that, but a lot of them can end up going either way, and it could be close games. And I believe Kansas State was returning a lot of players from last year. I think so. So anytime you get like that, you're thinking they're going to be good again because they were Big 12 champions last year, I believe. So you had high expectations, especially returning that quarterback. But they lost Deuce Vaughn, right? Deuce Vaughn.
That's the main thing they lost was.
So that's a tough loss because he was obviously an electric running back for them. But I think expectations were still there for them to compete in the Big 12 as we were saying earlier, that it's so wide open. And now going forward, I'm not sure. I mean, is there still a possibility they play in the Big 12 championship because of how open the Big 12 is? It's possible, I guess. But
I'd say yes. I'd
you
say
think
they'll have a
so?
huge chance. Yeah. Yeah.
You still believe
Just
in Kansas
well,
State?
I mean, the Big 12, I mean, look how they've done out of conference. They have lost. I mean, obviously, Texas won their out of conference big, huge game. But like, other than BYU and anyone else really won any good? Oklahoma State, Arizona State, but we've seen how Oklahoma State plays now. Like, really, there's no one good in the Big 12 except for Kansas State, Texas, Oklahoma, and I'd throw BYU and Kansas right there. UCF actually did have a good win against Boise State, but I mean, so far, there's really nobody that sticks out other than Texas.
Yeah.
So I'd say Kansas State probably is I mean, and Oklahoma, we've not seen play a quality team really yet. I'd say right now, Kansas State, for me, is my second best team in the Big 12, even better than Oklahoma right now, even with the loss.
Okay.
It's kind of a hot take, though, a little bit. Oklahoma fans might not like me for that, so.
Well, that's okay. They don't have much room to talk. I mean, sure, I think they're undefeated. Yeah, they're undefeated so far this season. So.
Yeah, they're 3-0, but they beat up like Tulsa, obviously Arkansas State. So no one really of importance quite yet.
Yeah. Now Kansas State fell out of the rankings, still receiving votes though. I think by the end of the season they worked their way back in. I would guess, falling in the 20s, maybe working their way back up into the late teens. Pending how the rest of their schedule goes.
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with Missouri because Missouri looks really good now. Like we said last week, their loss or their win against Middle Tennessee State was not a good look. They beat them by like 4 at home.
Yeah.
So that was like that's why I was like, oh, K-State easy. But I mean, Brady Cook for Missouri. I mean, Missouri looks good. I really liked how they were playing, and I think obviously being the SEC East, I don't know how they're gonna play with that. I think they might have a close game against some bigger teams. Might make it close against Tennessee and Georgia, but I think Missouri's good, and a lot of it depends on how good Missouri is. If Missouri stays relevant, wins 8 or 9 games, then that loss for Kansas State it's a last-second game. That's totally a game they can overcome, I would say. Like, not a season-ending game for them.
For sure. Just real quick before we jump on, Kansas State's schedule the rest of the way. UCF, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, TCU, Houston, obviously that big game against Texas then, Baylor, Kansas, and Iowa State to end the season. So there's definitely some tougher games left in there of like unranked opponents, teams like Texas Tech and Oklahoma State, Iowa State. Mm-hmm. There's some tougher opponents there left. So not a cakewalk the rest of the season, but they could definitely finish with 2 or 3 losses.
Hey, another underrated game next week. I know next week is full of not overrated, but highly rated, exciting games. Kansas State UCF is low key like probably one of the best unranked games, of the week. So I'm really excited for that.
All right. Moving on to another upset in the SEC. Well, involving an SEC team. Tennessee goes down to the Swamp. And they just look bad against Florida. I got a chance to watch the majority of this game, ending in a fight, and I believe it was 3 players just got suspended shortly before we hopped on here.
Yeah.
Which was kind of crazy. It was kind of a stupid end to the game, if you ask me. But like, I understand emotions are definitely running high. Obviously, 16-29 the final there from the Swamp. So. Mm-hmm. What kind of takeaways you get from this game? Is the Gators, or do they deserve to be ranked 25 now, or was Tennessee sort of overhyped coming into the season?
This one's hard for me because last week we said like, hey, I think we kind of called this game. We did not take the upset. We weren't like out of our pants or anything, but there was a lot of people picking Florida for this game, which was not crazy. Like when Florida was beating Tennessee, after our conversation, I was like, dang, I am not surprised. I mean, the Swamp, Florida probably cleaned things up because a lot of it was just them shooting themselves in the foot earlier. And Tennessee really is kind of just riding last year's coattails. And so, like, this really wasn't much of a surprise for me. I was surprised how dominant Florida was. They only had 5 penalties in this game for 30 yards. So very minimal. 5 for 30 is is great. Nothing over the top for Florida, especially going off of that Utah game. I think the main takeaway is that Florida has cleaned it up, and Tennessee, I wouldn't say is a bust. Definitely a little overhyped coming into the season. That offense kind of got shut down. So, and Florida's defense, it's hard to say how good they are because against Utah, that was the first game. But Utah with backup QBs did score 24 on Florida. And so how good is Tennessee's offense? I don't know. So, well, I don't know. What do you think?
I think the Tennessee's offense is looking bad coming off of last season, but obviously it's tough losing two key guys, obviously Hendon Hooker and then Jalen Hyatt as well going to the NFL. So that's tough. Joe Milton, I don't want to say he's looked bad. He hasn't looked great. He hasn't looked bad. 2 TDs and interception. Now for me on Florida side, I think an important part of this is, can Graham Mertz just manage the games? Can he just not turn the ball over? Because obviously that was his big knock at Wisconsin there was his turnovers. And as long as he's able to play, like, okay, he only went 19 for 24, 166 yards and a touchdown, but he didn't need to be an elite QB. Now, I think Trevor Etienne is going to be huge going forward for the Gators, obviously going for 23 yards, 172 or 23 carries, 172 yards. And with a touchdown there. Yes. So I think Florida, they're going to be creeping their way up in the rankings if they can keep this going. Quick schedule check for them the rest of the season. I don't even know. I don't recognize that logo. That's pretty bad. Charlotte. The Charlotte 49ers. Okay. Next week. And then Kentucky Vanderbilt, who has a great passing game this season. South Carolina, Georgia, Arkansas, and then LSU, Missouri, and ending the season with Florida State. So definitely not an easy schedule the rest of the way, mixed with a couple pretty well-ranked teams and then a couple easier games as well. Where do you think Florida ends up in the rankings?
Honestly, I have no idea because Florida coming into this year, I mean, in the preseason, Florida did not look good. Like, I was just like, there's no way Florida wins. Like, you look at each of those matchups before the season, and I was like, there's no way Florida could even go 6-6. Like 5-7, maybe, and a possible 6th win. Like maybe they upset someone. So they're 2-1 already. And now that we've seen them play, Trevor Etienne, and Graham Mertz is not turning the ball over against Tennessee. So I mean, I think the ceiling for me is still like 7-8 games, but which is far better than what we thought at the start of the season. So
sure,
definitely I'm looking at a ceiling of 7-8. So Florida has already exceeded my expectations just from this one game. Very impressive win.
Yeah, for sure. Jumping out of the upset world into the almost upset world, we're going to start off with the electric game, Colorado State, Colorado. Juices were flowing for that game. I watched the whole first half, and then I almost fell asleep during halftime. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to go to bed. I missed a dynamic second half. That's for sure.
Oh, my gosh.
An amazing ending. But I'm guessing I would have fell asleep anyway and just would have been more upset with myself for doing that. So I'm glad I chose to go to bed, I guess. But by the sound of it, you stayed up for the whole game.
Yes.
An electric game. General takeaways from the game, though.
Well, I'm very glad that I live in Utah, and it was only like 12:30 for me when this game ended, so it wasn't too bad. I did miss some of the first half due to the BYU Arkansas game, as I do not miss a play of BYU football ever. However, Colorado State was winning this game for 75% of it. Colorado State had a way better game plan, and frankly, this is kind of like a hot take, but Colorado was being outcoached by Colorado State. Because it basically, Colorado State, every single play was running just a crossing like drive route. Just they were crossing the inside receivers. And that was every single play. And Colorado wasn't adjusting. If it weren't for that pick 6 from, what's the other Sanders name? Shiloh Sanders, yeah. If it weren't for that pick 6, I mean, I don't know how this game would have finished. I don't know if Colorado could have pulled it out because they needed that juice bad. And Colorado State kind of had them for a loop for a while there. Luckily, they woke up. Not having Travis Hunter on the defense was huge because that's why those crossing routes are so lethal, is because man-to-man, Colorado State was beating him, and you needed someone like Travis Hunter to cover that inside receiver. And frankly, Colorado finally woke up and started driving down the field, but Colorado State was winning that game. There's a lot of worries that I think were brought up mainly on the defensive side. Now you're playing literally in Eugene, Oregon next week against Bo Nix and company.
Yeah.
And obviously it's a rivalry. I gave them that excuse. They're still ranked in my book. I gave them the rivalry excuse. You only get that once. You get it against your arch rival. And it's basically, you're okay to play down to your opponent because it's a huge rivalry and there was even more emotions in it. So I give them that. But still, I mean, that was crazy. That was one of the best games I've watched in a long time, frankly, because of the context. It was awesome.
Yeah. So obviously, normally most people wouldn't be tuning into Colorado State. But in this case, with obviously all the hype around Deion Sanders and all the stars that were at that game too, was incredible, celebrities and whatnot, and especially on the pregame shows beforehand, like The Rock was there for Pat McAfee show, and then for game day as well. That was crazy. And all the stars, Offset when they went to the camera there, that was Takeoff. No, Offset. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Offset.
I wasn't able to watch it actually. I woke
up
late.
Okay.
Yeah. Because for me, it's at like 8 a.m. in the morning.
Oh yeah,
college game day. So it's
That's
like I have to
right.
wake up. I literally have to get up for game day like early. And if I had a late Friday night, then I'm like out.
Yeah, fair enough. That's how I was with watching the game. But anyway,
right.
Back to the actual game. So impressive though from Shedeur Sanders having the ability to stay calm and go on that 98-yard drive, I think it was in the second half there.
Yeah.
Now, interesting move by Colorado from what I understand, taking the ball in overtime to start, and then they only went for the extra point, and then Colorado State only going for the extra point as well to tie instead of riding with the juice in that game and going for two. What did you think about that play call?
Well, I thought it was super weird. I mean, the minute I was watching the coin toss and they were like, all right, Colorado's won the toss. And I don't think I've ever seen that or ever heard of anybody electing to take the ball first in overtime. Because obviously, for those of you listening, I mean, in college overtime, you want the ball last. So if the other team gets a field goal or doesn't score, all you have to do is either get a field goal or a touchdown. You know what you need. There's no risk in taking your points where you get them. And so that was super weird. I was like talking to my buddy. We were watching it. I was like, is this like a statement or like, are they trying to like say like, yeah, we're going to score first? I don't know. That was really weird. And a team like Colorado State, like you said, to not go for two. Oftentimes when you get in those games, if you're an underdog in a game, you want to try and get off the field because the longer that game goes on, the less chance you have of winning. Just, you've seen that with like Utah USC last year. Utah made the right call by going for two. Even if they missed it, like if they went into an overtime with USC, I don't think they would have won overtime. So going for two was huge. And I don't know why Colorado didn't do that. Colorado State didn't do that. But all the penalties, there was even more penalties in overtime. That was crazy. Colorado State was, both teams were playing pretty physical, but Colorado State really shot themselves in the foot.
Colorado State was playing physical, borderline, and I'm not one to say dirty a lot because I guess I'm a fan of tough football, so to say.
Yeah.
They were playing dirty. That hit on Travis Hunter was just uncalled for, and now he's going to be out for 3 weeks, I think. So that's tough having him miss.
That made me mad, bro. I watched the replay just today, and now they actually reported on what it was. He got lacerated kidney or liver.
Liver.
Yeah. And it like pissed me off, bro. Like I went to the dude's account. What's his name? Henry like Whitehead or something. And he just barely. I looked at his Instagram 2 nights ago. I wasn't gonna say anything. I mean, you can't just be outside of the game. It's not very nice to just be mean to people. It's in a game. Emotions are high, but still, I mean, like I was pissed. I went to this dude's Instagram and he turned off his comments last night. He's obviously getting a lot of hate for that. That hit was not clean at all. That was very dirty and intentional. The ball was on the ground. It wasn't even like the air. The ball wasn't even in the air. Travis Hunter was a yard out of bounds. I mean, it was bad. It's bad. And then there was also that roughing the passer in overtime that Colorado State had, where not only was it targeting on Shadir Sanders on that D end or linebacker, but he drove him into the ground with his helmet. I mean, it was pretty bad. So,
like you said, really shooting themselves in the foot. It's okay to play with intensity, but then once you cross the line and start, endangering players, just unnecessarily. It's one thing to get injured during a football play, but when you're taking a cheap shot at somebody, especially a team's, I mean, depending how you want to say Shadur or Travis Hunter best player, but either way,
right.
Travis Hunter's probably more valuable playing both sides of the ball. So taking a cheap shot like that early in the game is just totally uncalled for. And I understand, bring the intensity. It's a rivalry game. Everybody's juiced up, but they're just taking a lot of unnecessary shots and just really killing their chances.
When there's more, it comes down to intent. When it's just emotion, you can tell when it's emotion versus intentional. Like when it's way too far. Like there are times where players are, it's a really big hit or they're just fired up, and it's emotional. We've all played sports. I mean, you act differently when it's a close game, when it's emotional. But like there's times where it's like, all right, you should not be playing in the game anymore. That's a temper. You can't control it anymore. So
for sure.
Tough to watch, but also really exciting, really fun to watch. So
it was a great game. And you got anything else on this game before we move on? We're gonna talk a little Alabama.
I don't think so for now. I just worried about Colorado's defense against Oregon. That's the huge thing. Without Travis Hunter, can Colorado even keep it close against Oregon? Is the huge storyline going into this week. But anyways, we'll see.
All right, we'll see it. Now, a little controversy. I guess you could say controversy. Quarterback controversy for the Alabama Crimson Tide as it took on South Florida, won 17-13, squeaked out the victory. It only took two different quarterbacks. Tyler Buchner is not the answer, that's for sure.
No.
And Ty Simpson might not be the answer either. That it might be back to square one with Milroe. So
I don't quite understand. Like, I understand like why you try different quarterbacks, but I don't understand why Milroe was out for 4 quarters in a 1-score game against USF. I was still a little lost. Like, are they punishing Milroe for not playing the bat? Like, it almost seems like it's a punishment. I don't understand why you didn't put in Milroe when you were out of answers. And basically, to win that game, Alabama just had to out roster just out talent USF. That's all they did. They just said, all right, we're just gonna run down the middle every single time and get 5 yards to carry and just take care of business. I don't know. I don't understand what the whole Milroe situation was. So
it's a little confusing. Now, it does raise questions as to if he's going to be back under center again this week. I don't think anybody really knows. Who knows if Nick Saban even knows at this point?
No. Who are they playing this week?
Alabama. I think they're playing somebody good this week. Oh, they're playing.
Oh, they're playing Ole Miss at home.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yep.
Whoa.
Big game.
Whoa. I didn't even. Whoa. Hey, Wake Forest is so sick. Holy cow.
Yeah. So they need to figure that out in this week of practice. My gut is telling me they're going back to Jalen Milroe.
Yeah. Jalen Milroe's, I mean, he's still really good. He's still great. So, I mean, because Simpson came in and went 5 for 9 for 73 yards, which isn't bad, but is not much juice there to keep him going. And USF, I mean, we can tell USF's one of the worst teams in the country. They definitely got better, I think, this year. I think they went in the transfer portal quite a bit. But last year they fired the head coach, went, I think, 2-10. One of the worst teams in the FBS last year. Like, absolutely horrendous. So this is not only you're losing to let's say even like Middle Tennessee, or you're losing to like Utah State. This is USF. USF is like, as of last year, is basement ground level, very bad. So I don't know. That was weird. Alabama does not lose like that. There are a lot of other teams that struggle like that. I wouldn't be surprised if, because Georgia has games like this last year. Georgia Tech, obviously South Carolina this week. Like Georgia has times where they've struggled like this. Michigan, Ohio State, they all have times where they're slow. But for some reason, Nick Saban, it is not like him to do this. This is why this is so shocking to have a 17-3 game. It'd be crazy if Georgia, if it was Georgia, it'd be like, whoa, is Georgia for real? But with Bama, the stadium is on fire. The stadium's burning down. It's crazy. So
Do you think they should be lower than 13 in the poll?
I don't know. It's still Bama. I have them, I think, at 14 in mine. I don't know. That one's a hard one. I mean, obviously, this is why week 4 is amazing. We get to see a lot of teams and actually put them in the right spot, at least for now. I think, honestly, they've earned less than that. They did only lose to Texas by 10. They did blow out Middle Tennessee, but I put them at like, after thinking about it a lot more, I think they should probably be a little lower, maybe 16, 17.
A couple of the teams they're ranked ahead of right now: 14 Oregon State, 15 Ole Miss, 16 Oklahoma, 17 North Carolina. So yeah, I'd say almost as Alabama sitting at 2-1 above these undefeated teams. Granted, opponents matters a lot, but
Right.
still, that one loss to Texas, like you said, losing by 10, but then only beating USF 17-3.
It's like, what do you value when you rank teams? Do you value just overall talent? Because if you know football, if you've ever watched football in your entire life, you know that a good, amazing roster with a bad quarterback doesn't work. A good quarterback with a terrible roster can work. It can happen. Teams can play if without a quarterback, no matter how good your team is, amazing linebackers, amazing line, amazing wide receivers, all this stuff can only do so much. But football is run through the quarterback. I mean, if you do not have a quarterback, you can't win football games. That's just how it is. So if Alabama can't figure this out, that's why this whole thing's in question. If they had a quarterback and they were just kind of playing a little rusty, it's a different story. But because there's no quarterback, no identity for a quarterback, it's getting worse and worse and worse because quarterbacks are built on experience. And so I don't know, like a team like Oregon State with DJ and a team like Ole Miss with Jackson Dart, a team like Oklahoma with Dylan Gabriel, like they have quarterbacks that are really good. So I don't know. That's something to consider. Just how you evaluate quarterback play.
Yeah, it makes you kind of think that Alabama really swung and missed with Tyler Buckner in the transfer portal there.
Seriously, I mean, he did. I didn't like it either. He didn't play very good at Notre Dame. He played fine, but
yeah. Okay, that's pretty much all that I had planned up. Is there any other games you would like to talk about?
Let's see. There were some underrated games. I mean, I think Georgia South Carolina is worth mentioning.
Sure.
That game I picked South Carolina to win on my page, kind of just because I was like, it'd be really cool to see Georgia to lose. And at halftime, I was like, hey guys, let's watch this game. It was 14-3 at halftime. South Carolina was up. Now, did I think South Carolina was going to win this game? I actually did not. I was still like, even during halftime, I was like, I mean, Georgia is so much better than South Carolina. And Spencer Rattler, with all of this, is proving how amazing he is. Holy cow. He has like 2 seconds to literally fire off the ball. This is Georgia rushing against his D+ D line. And he is making passes that are crazy. He's making reads in so short of time. And he walks off the field. He's covered in dirt and grass. Like, hats off to Spencer Rattler. He is a baller. Oh my gosh. If you watch a game, he has got no help. South Carolina really messed up with the O-line. So we'll see how far they can go with that. But Spencer Rattler and the wide receiving core, obviously, for South Carolina also is very good. But that O-line is a huge problem. If South Carolina had an O-line, that game might have been different. So
now on Georgia's side of it, how much does it worry you that Georgia was down at halftime? You did predict it. I did say you predicted Georgia was going to be down at halftime.
Yeah. Oh, I did say that. That. I was like, I bet this game will be within 1 score. And I think South Carolina could be very well winning. Dude, holy cow, that's so sick. I think, well, the main reason I did that, I think it's just Georgia. That's just how they do it. Kirby Smart is like so prone to that. No matter how good the team is, you've watched Georgia football over the last 3 years, you know that they will keep every single game close. They don't blow anybody out in the first half, like ever, no matter who they're playing. They will always like have a close game at halftime. Ball State, Kent State, all these teams, they will do that against. So I still was not surprised. I was hyped, but I wasn't surprised when they pulled away and won because they're so much better. But this is going to happen every single game. Missouri, guarantee you, 1-score game at halftime. All of those games, 1-score game. Now, if they play like Tennessee, I don't know. I could see that when they step up, they might be able to do it. We'll see how they play.
All right. Any questions about Carson Beck going forward?
I think he played fine. I don't think it was really him being the problem. They couldn't really convert on third down was a big deal. But a lot of it was the running game finally turned up. Edwards at running back is really good for Georgia. So I don't have too many concerns. He still threw for almost 300 yards, 27 for 35. I still don't have much of a problem with it for right now.
All right.
So I think he's the man for the job.
All right. Any other games you want to cover? Minnesota, North Carolina.
Hey, North Carolina kind of did redeem themselves. Minnesota's a great team. So North Carolina handling that, it was close, which was fine. Minnesota's a good team. North Carolina's a good team. So I think North Carolina pulling away was great. Good win for North Carolina after that App State. Proved like, all right. These guys are like still for real. They did beat South Carolina earlier, obviously, but like, okay, they're not a bust or anything. Like they got it, but we'll see how they perform against some higher powered teams.
Only thing about North Carolina, Drake May stock dropping at this point.
Yes. I love him. I was really hyped for him, but he's not really being a Heisman candidate right now. He's being a good quarterback. That's it. He's just being a good quarterback, but nothing to put him in the top 10 quarterbacks right now. Not even he's almost fallen to top 15 quarterbacks. He's thrown a lot of picks. He had did he have any picks against Minnesota? I know he did against the first 2 games. He's had a bunch of picks. Oh my gosh. Okay, he's thrown like what, 6 picks already in the season? That's not so good.
Yeah, 4 interceptions, 4 TDs, 4 interceptions. So,
okay, so 4, not so bad, but still 4 TDs, 4 interceptions. That's not a good rate.
No, and good. With the amount of elite QBs there are in college football right now, no room to make any mistakes if you want to stay in that Heisman contention. But he may have already fallen out of it. So, I think that's going to be everything. Appreciate you coming.
Last game. Let's talk about BYU Arkansas.
Okay, there you go.
Talk about it.
There you go.
BYU Arkansas.
Your time to shine.
My time to shine. I picked BYU to win, obviously. I did not think we were going to win. When I looked at the schedule, I said this last time, when I looked at BYU's schedule at the start of the year, I said, okay, like maybe we could beat Oklahoma at home. That'd be dope. But 6-7 games, 6-7 wins, that'd be great. There was one game, though, I did not see us winning no matter what, and it was Arkansas. Going at Arkansas, they beat us last year very handily. Even though it was close, they were beating us the whole game. And honestly, just didn't see us winning that game. Arkansas went up 14-0 in like 3 minutes. I don't know if you saw that game. It was bad. BYU was looking so bad. They second play from scrimmage, 75-yard touchdown, then a punt return on the next drive. So it was 14-0, and then BYU scored 3 straight touchdowns, made it 21-14, all in the first quarter. So it was a wild game, and BYU put a lot of pressure on KJ Jefferson, was able to stop him. So I think BYU, I am not going out of my mind here. I am not saying BYU dark horse Big 12 yet. I am not going irrational. I'm not delusional yet. But I will say, I put it on my Instagram, BYU is probably Big 12 trap game central. I think this definitely BYU could upset some teams. I don't think we're going to win still more than 7 or 8 games, but I could see very well BYU being a trap game, especially up in Provo. For some Big 12 teams.
Hey, receive some votes. It means something.
Yeah. If we beat Kansas this week, that's another underrated game. 2 3-0 teams. If we beat Kansas this week, maybe we'll be ranked. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, could happen very well, and I'd be happy for you, Chase. So
yes, it'd be awesome. Good win. So
that's right. All right. That's going to do everything on the college football side. Thank you to Chase for coming on, hanging out with us, talking a little college football. All right, jumping over to the NFL side now. All right, joined by Kyle now. We're going to talk a little NFL. Quite a weekend in the NFL as well. So we had great weekends across football altogether. But just to run down what we're talking about, starting off with kind Kyle's Giants. Incredible comeback versus Cardinals. Down 20-0 early. They were down 60-0 on the year at one point, which is insane. But fought the whole way back, got the win. So it was a great game. Talk a little bit about the Broncos, the ending to that game, which was kind of crazy. They're 0-2. Russell Wilson has issues there. Of course, Dolphins, they're looking pretty electric, beating the Pats on Sunday Night Football. And then Ravens beating the Bengals to put all of our AFC Super Bowl picks, Cincinnati Bengals at 0-2 on the season. And then if there's any other games or teams we want to talk about along the way, I'm sure we'll get into it. But starting off with your New York Giants, we were talking a little bit off air. You described it as bittersweet with the news about Saquon Barkley, obviously. Ankle injury there, going to be out for 3 weeks. But focusing on the good right now, the comeback. What did you see that you liked the most?
I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, they really didn't yes, the comeback was great, but other than that, I mean, I wasn't impressed by too much. I hate to say it, I really do, but Daniel Jones kind of took over that second half, which that was good to see from him. This offensive line is terrible.
Yeah,
it's got to be one of, if not the worst in football. Yeah, I mean, the wide receiver room doesn't seem to be anywhere. I like to see Waller get in there. That was nice. Other than that, this defense looks terrible again. We still have yet to record a sack on the season. I think that's kind of crazy. Yeah, man. I mean, focusing on the good, I mean, I guess you could say Daniel Jones. He impressed me. That was about it, though.
He did. He looked good. He had some nice runs in the second half. I'll say that. A couple going for first down, some clutch runs for sure. 9 for 59 yards. Not too bad. Like you said, getting Darren Waller involved a little bit more, I think, is definitely key with the lack of weapons on the receiving side. Now, they did hit Jalen Hyatt for a nice deep pass, which is pretty cool to see that speedster when they're able to air it out with him. Something of beauty, but still not to be it wasn't very impressive. You should have never really been down 20-0 against the Cardinals. The Cardinals aren't necessarily trying to win. They don't have their star quarterback. It's not good when you're losing to Josh Dobbs. I'll say that much. Not good at all. And you shouldn't have been in that spot, Giants. Now, granted, you were able to climb back out of it and you win 31-28. So kudos to you, but there's so many questions about like the offensive line, the defense. Which one are you more worried about, though? The offensive line or the defense the rest of the season?
Oh, offensive line by far.
Okay.
The defensive line, I think, is going to come around. Kayvon Thibodeau, he needs to step it up a little bit more. I mean, I said this on last episode. The thing is, these offensive lines are just going to double team Dexter Lawrence, and then that's it. That's all you need to do, because Leonard Williams is not playing to his level. Like I said, Kayvon Thibodeau needs to step it up. Azeez Ojulari, he's not really in there. Yeah, so I mean, when you only have this one absolute beast on the defensive line to start the season, all you got to do is double team it. And that's exactly what they're doing, and they're finding success with it. So like I said, defense I'm okay with. I think it's just, it's working out some kinks. I think once that defensive line gets things going, it's going to open up things for Lawrence, and he's going to be able to get in there with more pass rush, stop the run. But yeah, the defensive line, it kind of worries me a little bit, but that offensive line is terrible, dude. I mean, Evan Neal looks like the next Eric Flowers for us. Andrew Thomas is out with injury, and the rest of that O-line. I mean, John Michael Schmitz, I'm excited for him, but he's a rookie playing center, starting every single week. You got to let him develop. It's going to happen. He's been overmatched like constantly, which is fine. I mean, he's a rookie. I expect that. But these other guys, man, I mean, that's what worries me. I mean, Thomas didn't look good, and if he's out for significant time, dude, that's it. Jones is never gonna. He's not gonna be able to do anything. And like I just said, with Barkley out too, I mean, it's terrible to see because you got a guy out there. You mentioned him earlier, Jalen Hyatt. When you can get him on a deep route and he's wide open with that speed, dude, that's great. But you're never going to see that because the offensive line is holding back all of our weapons, holding back Jones, holding back Hyatt, holding back Waller, even Sterling Shepard, man. I mean, yeah. So to answer your question, it's definitely the offensive line.
Okay. It was very offensive lines aren't always noticeable on TV, but when they are, it's usually not good because you're not thinking about the offensive line when the quarterback's not getting taken down and not getting sacked. That's when you start to notice it. When there's holding calls all the time, that's when you notice it. So there was quite a few of both of those. Daniel Jones getting pressured and offensive line holding calls. So it's never good when the offensive line is in the spotlight or getting talked about. I mean, occasionally maybe for the Eagles with their all pros all across the offensive line. But anyway, had to get that in there. Sorry about that.
Of course, it's all right. It's all right.
I think there's stuff to like about the Giants, but I'm not sure there's stuff to love or stuff to feel great about, especially with the Eagles and the Cowboys in the division. And then, I mean, Commanders won yesterday. they didn't look terrible. That Commanders pass rush, especially if Chase Young can actually be one, healthy, and two, the guy he was at Ohio State. They have a nasty pass rush. So especially against that Giants offensive line, that's just looking ahead to both of their matchups coming up later in the season. So I don't know. Giants playoff stock is dropping, even though they won yesterday. I'm not feeling great about them, Kyle. I hate to say it.
No, I'm not either, dude. Look at the schedule coming up, dude. There's a chance that they could have, if they lost that game yesterday. There's a chance that they could be 0 I think it's 0-6 from what I was looking at. 0-6, 0-7 on the season, dude. They have a terrible dude. We gotta go to okay.
I got it.
Yeah, quick turnaround with San Francisco, and then after that, I'll let you take it away. Go ahead.
So we got Seattle on Monday night. So back-to-back primetime games there. That's a little tough. Then you go into Miami at Buffalo, home versus Washington, home versus the Jets, Raiders at the Cowboys, at the Commanders again, New England, blah, blah. We don't need to go through the whole schedule. But either way, there's a tough little stretch in there, starting with San Francisco this Thursday.
Philadelphia is 2 of the last 3 games that we got to play.
Yeah, that's tough.
Dude, I mean, yeah, we get a little break in there with the Rams, but even the Rams look good, man. See, this is what worried me, right? From the very jump. And now that you didn't kind of take advantage of the first 2 games of the season and you damn near lost the second one, which you had no business even getting that close. This is what I'm worried about. So yes, the playoff stock's out of the way for me as well. I think mixed with the schedule as well as what this team has performed on the field, dude, there's really not much to look forward to.
Yeah. So I guess that's enough trashing on the Giants. But just being honest, there's not a lot to love about the Giants, their season as a whole going forward, really. Now, the next game, we talked about the Commanders a little bit, and they were able to pull off a tight game versus the Denver Broncos, who have been pretty disappointing. I picked them both weeks now to win, and that didn't turn out too great so far. So a deep ball connection, Hail Mary, near the end of the game. They get the touchdown. They can't get the 2-point conversion, though. Russell Wilson doubts are popping up left and right. Are they going to, well, first of all, ride it out with him for the rest of the season? And then people are always looking ahead and already looking ahead to next year. It was like a Bleacher Report article or something. It was like, will the Broncos move off of Russell Wilson in 2024? It's like, well, let's get through the rest of this season first, and then maybe we can talk about 2024. But just very unimpressive by the Broncos. Russell Wilson, he started off all right, and it just seems as the game progressed and things got more tightly contested, he wasn't able to keep up, and he's definitely not the quarterback he once was in Seattle. Sean Payton, I think, is starting to realize that one, he may have taken the wrong job with the Broncos. He's maybe thinking he was getting Russell Wilson from 4 years ago or 3 years ago, not the Russell Wilson he has right now. He probably should have went to the Chargers as well. If that gig was open to him, I don't know if it was, or one of the other gigs that was open, because they're looking a little bit better than the Broncos right now. But Russell Wilson, 18 for 32. Don't exactly love that clip. 308 yards, but when you're in a shootout like that, that doesn't always mean a lot. 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. So not great. Your takeaways from the Broncos Commanders game as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, it got really exciting at the end. I liked that. That was great. That was some great football to watch. And then it was just like the ultimate seize, because then of course the 2-point conversion. Yeah, but no, we were just talking about my Giants and how there's not much to look forward to. I will say that I'm glad that I'm a Giants fan over a Broncos fan, though. I think that might just be taking the icing on the cake there. You got a quarterback who's obviously aging, right? You gave up so much for him, and you turn around and you bring in one of the best head coaches that we've seen in the last generation, and it just I don't know, man. Nothing is coming onto the field like at all. It's tough to see because I like Sean Payton, I really do. And I was pulling for him, because he came back, obviously after a whole New Orleans thing, and I thought he was going to do some magic to this team, man. I really did. But Washington's defense looks good. Jury's still out on Sam Howell. Not entirely sure how I feel about him yet.
Fair.
But, yeah. I mean, Commanders look good, 2-0. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Not for me, but Denver, I just don't know, man. I feel like the sky's falling in Denver. Something's got to give, man.
Yeah, I think it's going to end up being Russell Wilson is going to be the guy who's going to pay for all this. And whether that's rightfully so or not, he's been without Jerry Jeudy, his number one weapon. And now, granted, he had some nice performances receiving wise yesterday from some of the Marvin Mims Jr. had like 2 catches for like 113 yards or something crazy like that. So, I mean, that's great, but you need consistent weapons, not guys who are popping off against the mediocre Commanders secondary, at least. Now, don't get me wrong. I was talking about the Commanders defensive line. They're no joke, but the secondary, not so sure about. We're talking about the Commanders, so schedule going forward. Home against the Bills. That's going to be tough. It's probably a loss. But then you got the Eagles. Okay, probably another loss. That's away in Philly. Then, this is going to be a tough game probably. We thought we were done with the Thursday night curse. Commanders Bears on Thursday Night Football in 3 weeks. That might be a tough watch. Anyway, Commanders Falcons. Then they got your Giants and my Eagles again. Patriots, Seahawks, Giants, blah, 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 the rest of the way. But there's definitely some winnable games in there. They took care of business against Arizona last week. And maybe I was stupid for picking Denver in this game because a lot of the signs were there between both squads in week 1. But I think in the next 4 weeks, they go 2-2. And if you extend that to 5 weeks against your Giants, I think it'll be a close game. I don't know. We'll see how things shake up between now and then, but that should be a good game. Commanders' expectations aren't high, though, for the rest of the season. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bit of a tough stretch in there. Yeah, I would agree, though. I also think it really develops on or counts on what Sam Howell can do as well. Like I said,
sure.
I'm not sure how I feel about him quite yet. He's shown me both, man. Like, he's shown me where he can excel in this league, but then there's a few of them where it was a little questionable calls there, you know. So I don't I don't really know how to feel about the Commanders. And I think it has to do with the Giants as well, because you know Giants are coming off a season where our expectations are high for our team. You know, for the Commanders fans, it might not be that same way. So you know, you just never know. You know, it all really all depends on what this Giants team can do, and if the Commanders can take care of business. But I think it is a real possibility that this Commanders team can take over the Giants in the NFCs just because of schedules as well. But yeah, I think a lot goes into it. But I think as long as Sam Howell can develop quite well, I think they'll be all right.
For sure. If not, though, with the great quarterback class coming out of college this year, it would not surprise me if the Commanders decide to move right along. But you never know. From one pretty good game to another decent game last night, Sunday Night Football. You got a chance to catch that? Dolphins Pats?
A little bit, not too
Okay.
much.
Yeah.
Little bit.
Okay. It was a decent game. Patriots had an opportunity to go on a game tying drive at the end of the game. Mike Gesicki doing a little bit of a lateral to the one offensive lineman. Initially, they gave him the first down. Upon review, they said he was a little bit short, which, I mean, it was close, but indisputable evidence I'm not sure about. But that's not what we're talking about. The Dolphins offense has looked pretty electric so far this season. Tua doesn't have to be great. He really doesn't. He's just got to be able to distribute the ball and, to be frank, not get a concussion. Okay. Other than that, he doesn't have to be Patrick Mahomes with the weapons that the Dolphins have, and with Mike McDaniel scheming it all up there. I think there's a lot to be excited about for the Dolphins this year.
No, I agree. This Dolphins team is electric. Some of the game that I was catching last night as well as week one. This team reminds me a lot of the 49ers for some reason, right? So you got an electric offense and a quarterback who could be replaceable, but the quarterback doesn't need to do much. Just lob it up for Tyreek Hill and he's got it. Yeah, that's all you really got to do. I mean, so I think the defense could use a little bit of work, but like I said, dude, you know, and as you stated as well, this offense is electric and they're fun to watch, dude. You know, some of the game that I was watching last night towards the end there. I mean, it just looks so easy, man. I mean, it was so cool to see this Dolphins team finally like have some success, because this Dolphins team has been a laughingstock of football for how long now, you know?
True.
So it's cool to see them, you know, back back beating the Patriots. That was the thing, man. You know, the Patriots ran this division for how many years, and seeing these other teams. I mean, even the Jets, dude. Jets are up there. You know, you got the Bills in there as well. So it's like, it's just cool to see the way this division's playing out, man. I mean, it's nice to see that it's somebody other than the Patriots, and I'm most excited for the Dolphins in this division.
Yeah, for sure. We didn't even mention their running game. Raheem Mostert had a monster game last night. 18 carries, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns. I know he broke off a big one. I'm thinking it's his longest run of the game for 43 yards, which I was able to see, which the Patriots have a good defense. That's one thing you could count on with Bill Belichick, is the Patriots are going to have a good defense and they're going to have good special teams. Yep. On the offensive side of the football, there's always going to be question marks if Tom Brady's not at the helm, especially now that Josh McDaniels left that team too. So back to Miami, though, those weapons, like we said, Jalen Waddle, 4 for 86. Tyreek Hill, he only went 5 for 40. Because the Patriots were playing great defense. They put their young corner, Christian Gonzalez, on him, and he was able to not lock him up, but like contain him for the most part, which is tough with Tyreek Hill. So I think the Dolphins are definitely going to have one of the top offenses across the league. And like I said, Tua, it's not even, I'm not trying to take a shot at Tua, but just be a decent quarterback. You know, you don't have to do anything special, which I mean, in week one, he had like 450 passing yards, but 200 of them were receiving yards by Tyreek Hill. And a lot of that is run after the catch with Tyreek Hill. So not all of that is on Tyreek or on Tua's back. The credit wise and the work wise. I understand it's a little easier when you're thrown to Tyreek Hill on a deep ball, but you do have to be able to hit him in stride. So that's something that matters as well. But no, I'm definitely impressed by the Dolphins so far, and there's a real chance they could win this division this year. They're the ones who are up in the standing. They're the only undefeated team in the AFC East there. So Bills could be the end of your reign. It wasn't really that long lasting, and it wasn't very dominant either, to be frank. But your time as the top of the AFC East might be over as soon as it started. Who else we want to talk about here? Cowboys? I don't know. Neither of us want to talk about the Cowboys, but
I mean, I guess we could touch on them a little bit.
A little bit. They took care of business against the Jets. I don't know. We didn't even get a chance to talk about Aaron Rodgers' injury on here because that happened after we recorded the podcast or the show here. So we haven't even talked about that. We're not gonna. I don't know. We're gonna take 20 minutes to talk about it because it's old news at this point. But sucks, obviously. Very hyped up for Aaron Rodgers' Jets era. It's going to be awesome, insane. 4 plays in, it's over for the year. Most likely, Aaron Rodgers seems to think maybe it's not. I don't know about that, but we get to see Zach Wilson. What did we expect against one of the best defenses in the league? Micah Parsons was just ripping the Jets apart. Wilson, 3 interceptions to the 1 touchdown. And frankly, not a great game for him to be thrown into as his first start back, I guess you could say, because he was benched, obviously. But the Cowboys, we hate to compliment them, but they have looked good so far.
No, I agree with you. And I'm not going to sit here and bash on too much. I'm going to, but not too much, But I look at it this way, right? I'm not sold on the Cowboys offense. I'm sold on their defense. Don't get me wrong. I think their defense is absolutely insane. Micah Parsons is a stud, dude. There's no way I can bash him at all, man. I mean, he shows up every single game, and no matter who he's going up against, he's going to make noise. But the offense, I'm not sold on. I'm going to tell you why. You went up against the Giants in week 1, right? There's question marks all around this team. I will sit here and I will bash on my Giants just because they deserve it, man. I mean, this defensive line was nowhere to be found, and neither was the rest of the secondary. So, and Dallas's defense, dude, took care of most of the Giants that entire game, right? And I feel like it was the same way against the Jets, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, their defense is great. Don't get me wrong. I will compliment them all day long, but don't get me started on their offense. Until you're playing a real defense, I'm not taking anything away from the Jets, but like I said, the Dallas's defense kept them at bay. So until you're facing a team who's, going to be there at the end, I'm not going to compliment them too much.
All right. We're not going to see that next week. They're playing the Cardinals. After that, the Patriots. Then the Niners. That'll be a real test coming up October 8th. So basically looking forward to that game.
Okay, real quick. Who made this schedule for Dallas? Whoever did is a Dallas fan. That's what I want. That's what I'm going to say. Right? Somebody's an insider here. Anyway.
This requires full schedule reading here. So I said up to the Niners. Then they got the Chargers, the Rams, my Eagles, your Giants. Jeez. Panthers, Commanders, Seahawks, Eagles, Bills, Dolphins, ending with Detroit, and then ending the season with Washington. So,
dude, who made that schedule? Get the hell out of here. Come on. Oh my gosh.
Hey, America's team, apparently. So,
Yeah, evidently.
We said about
Jerry
Micah Parsons.
slipped in a little bit of Jerry Jones slipped in some money there. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hey, I'd love a piece of that Jerry Jones pie, to be honest. But Micah Parsons on defense, 4 solo tackles, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for losses. I mean, he's a beast.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one Cowboys player I can stand to compliment, seeing as he went to Penn State. I can enjoy that just a little bit. Just a little bit. It still pains me that he went to Dallas, but just a little bit, I can stand it at least. But like you said, on offense, a lot of receiving yards for CeeDee Lamb, but just it's still some questions there.
You got a good secondary in there. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. So we'll see, though.
Yeah, they did not have Sauce Gardner trailing CeeDee Lamb all game. So that could be a little question marks there around Jets' defensive plan. But hey, what do I know? I am not a defensive coordinator. I am far from it. But impressed from the Cowboys, but still some things remain to be seen. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah.
Another game we want to get to. Ravens-Bengals. All of us picked the Bengals going into the season, representing the AFC. It was not collusion, not groupthink, any of that. We literally all separately decided our picks and sent them in. Ironically, we all had Joe Burrow too as MVP, and then I was like, we got to change this up. Not everybody can have Joe Burrow and the Bengals and Eagles in the Super Bowl, so I went ahead and picked my guy Jalen Hurts because why not? But anyway, back to this game. The Bengals look not very impressive. And Joe Burrow, some people are saying maybe he's still dealing with that calf injury that he suffered in training camp, which it's possible. He did look like he was limping there near the end of the game a little bit. But not impressive for the guy who had just signed the richest contract in NFL history. 27 for 41, 222 yards, 2 TDs, 1 interception. Not that great. On the Ravens side of things, though, we were talking about most dynamic offenses with the Dolphins. The Ravens also have a very dynamic offense, and it really sucks that J.K. Dobbins got injured in week 1. It's going to be out for the whole year. That's awful now. And OBJ, I think, is dealing with it's a knee or an ankle. I don't remember, but
I believe it's a knee. If I'm
okay.
Not mistaken.
Okay. So hopefully he's not out for like a week or two. That's just terrible because we all want to see OBJ play football at the end of the day. Yeah, come on, Kyle. You still want to see OBJ. You were hoping he signed back with the Giants. You were.
I am. I'm not going to lie. I
am. But Lamar Jackson, I don't have to tell anybody he's dynamic because he jumps off the screen whenever he's playing. He rushed for 54 yards, so not too bad. Go ahead. Takeaways from Bengals or from Ravens or both.
I'll start with the Ravens. You kind of hit it right on the head there. Their offense is amazing. I mean, this is what happens when you put weapons around quarterbacks who need weapons. Dude, that's what we've been asking for from the Ravens for how long, right? And you finally give your quarterback the extension that he wanted. You put weapons around him, and now he's proving why he deserved that extension. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And like I said, and how you stated about OBJ, he's still my guy. I mean, I hope the best for him. I love him. I mean, he made Giants football fun again, man. He really did. But I want to see him back on the field. Him and Lamar Jackson just seem like such a duo, man. It really does. It's something that I want to see week in and week out. Their offense is great. I'm really excited to see more of it. Flipping to the Bengals side, yikes.
Yeah.
I mean, I really hope that it's just, still those quirks of Joe Burrow still figuring out things with his calf. But he doesn't look good, man. I mean, something's got to be up because you can't just sign an extension to be the richest player in football and then, forget how to play football. That doesn't happen. You know, so obviously there's underlying things going on. I don't expect this to be a thing unless Burrow's injury is a lot more severe than what we know. Um, but you know, I'm looking like an idiot right now. I mean, yeah, I picked the Bengals the first 2 weeks of the season, 0 for 2 on that. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I really don't know, man. They just don't look good. I'm a little PO'd by T. Higgins. I benched him on fantasy just because week 1 was terrible for him, and then he went off in week 2. That's normally how it goes. So yeah, I'm holding a little bit of a grudge against T. Higgins right now. But you know, that's neither here or there.
We definitely need a weekly fantasy check-in from you, Kyle. I need to know. Did you at least win your matchup?
I
Or is
did.
it all riding? Okay. I didn't
And
know if it was riding on Monday night yet or not.
no. I have it secured as of right now. I'm 2-0 on the year, you know,
Okay.
for anybody who wants to know. I have Jalen Hurts at quarterback, so there you go, Matt.
Love that.
Yeah, so
Okay.
Bijan Robinson is killing it for me, you know.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, great pick there. Back to the NFL real quick. Bengals, I can see a world where you sort of chop up the first 2 games and chalk it up to week 1 versus Cleveland. First of all, Joe Burrow didn't play any preseason games. He didn't get a lot of time in training camp. It was his first game back. It was a sloppy, wet game in the rain. Chalk that up to weather and first game of the season. I can understand that. Week 2 versus the Ravens. Ravens seem to be a pretty good team. Better team won. It's very possible. The better team just won that game. It wasn't a blowout. I mean, 24-7 or 24-27 is a close game. So we're going to see going forward. Next week on Monday night at the Rams, or home versus the Rams. I'm sorry. So Super Bowl rematch there. Rams look surprisingly good in week 1. They did not look bad yesterday versus the 49ers either. So the 49ers did not smoke them by any means. If I had to guess, they sort of, I don't want to say out-rostered them, but like sort of out-rostered them. They just have better playmakers, and
That's what
49ers. Yeah, 49ers are a tougher team, but rest of the schedule going forward at the Titans, at the Cardinals. We'll see there. Titans, question marks. They're not great. They're not bad, though. Cardinals seem to be bad. Then Seahawks, Niners, Bills, Texans, Ravens, Steelers, Jaguars, Colts, Vikings, Steelers, Chiefs, and ending the season with the Browns. There's not a lot of easy games in there.
No, that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah. I mean, granted, they made it to the AFC. No, not the AFC Championship, divisional round last year. So, I mean, playoff schedule, but still, that's a tough schedule. The AFC North is pretty loaded this year, frankly, but well, we'll see with the Steelers. I mean, Kyle didn't think so. Kyle didn't have high expectations, but Mello and I, we really thought they were going to win week 1. But yeah, I think it's still a question mark for the Bengals. I'm not going to write them off yet, but it's yet to be seen. Not a great start. You should have won at least one of those games, but at the end of the day, divisional games, anything can happen. But any other games you want to highlight real quick?
I don't think so, unless there's any you want to cover.
Mello's Packers lost to the Falcons. Don't love that for Jordan Love era.
No.
I would love to talk to Mello about that, see how he felt, but unfortunately, not to be in this podcast. Chargers lose again. Don't love that. Brandon Staley, the seat is getting hot, my friend. You have so much talent on that roster. What are you doing? Wasting it, losing to the Titans. Whatever. Chiefs take care of business with the Jaguars. Buccaneers are 2-0. Baker Mayfield is back? Question mark.
Hey, maybe.
I don't know. Granted, the Bears are apparently bad. So did you? I forget. Did you have Bears or Bucks in that game?
I
I
don't
think
remember.
you had. I think you had Bears. I hate to say it, but I think
I
you
did.
had Bears.
I think so.
I know I had the Bears. I can't believe I took them, but I did. Part of that's on you, Colin Cowherd. Kyle had the Bears. Mello had the Buccaneers. Good for Mello.
Oh, there we
Good for
go.
Mello. I think that's going to be everything for this episode. We covered everything pretty well across the NFL, across college football. So make sure you like, subscribe, all that stuff, and we will see you again next week. See ya.
Later.